Hey everyone, welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio. My name is Nick Clark and I'm your host for today's show. Play Hard and Love Big Radio is dedicated to bringing you the inspirational people and the inspirational stories to help you connect to your center so that you can go out and live your most purposeful and passionate life. We're the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup. Check us out at spotteddogyoga.com. You are in for a treat today. She's got some mad personality. She loves the color. She's wearing color. She's in the color of the Spotted Dog studio. And she is a Halla Gear team paddler, big time whitewater supper, and a native of Pilot Hill, California. Welcome, Claire Dougherty, to Play Hard and Love Big Radio. What's up?
Thank you. Thank you for making me feel special and inviting me on your podcast.
Well, I tell you what, I've got a whole lot of respect for you. Just the times that I've seen you online busting through those lines in whitewater, it's unbelievable to see you doing that. I'm so excited to hear about your story. Tell us about growing up in Pilot Hill. What was that like?
So it's a tiny little town. It's like about 30 minutes from Folsom. I think it had maybe a little over 400 people when I was growing up. Maybe it's a little more now, maybe less, who knows? It's between Cool and Coloma. A lot of people, I feel like, know Coloma and Cool. It was interesting. It could get boring for sure at times. Like when I was in high school, I remember getting pretty bored. But I mean, I live in Lotus, which is like 15 minutes from there. So obviously I didn't hate it that much because I didn't get very far. Yeah, I would say in general, it was good.
And did you grow up outside a lot? Have you always been kind of an outdoor person? It seems like maybe up in that area, that would be a part of the lifestyle.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, it was kind of the only option. But yeah, my parents are super into nature. So naturally I was too. I would always be playing outside. And yeah, I still am obsessed with being outside in the sun to this day. So it's definitely stuck with me.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful area. And what is it that you do up there? What company you work with?
So I kind of have a million jobs. It was the same last year. I just kind of do all sorts of things. But this year I work for Camp Lotus. It's a campground in Lotus. It's where people access Barking Dog, the surfing rapid that's really popular. I should say surfing wave. So I work for them. I do all sorts of stuff. I do reservations, check-in, bathrooms, building picnic tables, weed eating, mowing, just the whole nine. Anybody who works there pretty much does everything. And then I work for a rafting company called Wet River Trips. They're just down the road from Camp Lotus. I do reservations for them a couple days a week. And then I work for my neighbor. She has 2 properties that I caretake. And then I also do some weed eating for another lady and kind of like landscaping. And it's all within like 5 minutes of my house. So I feel very grateful for that. I don't have to commute. And it's pretty luscious.
And it's like right up in that area that you grew up in.
Yep.
Which is pretty awesome. And are your parents still around?
Yep. Yeah, they're still in the same house that they actually built. It's a log home. I think it took them I always forget the number. I think it was 5 to 7 years, and they didn't have a huge amount of experience, but they built it themselves and still live in it today. It's pretty amazing.
Wow, that's cool. And one of the things that you filled out in your form about your parents, or one of the things you learned from them, was work ethic. Can you talk a little bit about that and what watching them create this log house, or just in general in their life, taught you?
Yeah, so they are definitely the hardest working people I know. My mom was a nurse and my dad was an arborist. He had his own business. And they're just always doing something, always outside, working in the yard, doing new projects. Like their house looks like a state park. It's just like perfection. and they're both retired now, but still going hard, doing the things. My mom's always going on walks, and yeah, they're just the most solid, amazing people that I know. They definitely taught me to be kind. That was one of the biggest things. Be kind, have a good work ethic, and leave a place that you found better than you found it. They always were big on, like, if you're going to your friend's house, like, make sure you clean up after yourself and do your dishes, and really big on that. Yeah, they're amazing. I'm very, very grateful and proud to call them my parents.
That's really neat. Yeah, that's like the way that we're, taught, I feel like, is through example in so many ways. At least, I mean, there's a lot of people that I learned from that, were just teaching me like instructionally and whatnot. But really the ones that I remember the most, I feel like, are the ones that I was observing, that I admired, that I looked up to, that I respected, that just watching them do their daily activities or listening to the words that they were sharing with me or sharing with other people, or the way that they were communicating with other people. Those are those things and those people, from those people, that I really remember. And I think that that's so neat that you had such a great experience with your parents and that your parents are still around. How would you say that those things that you've learned, that you're bringing them into your everyday life now? Like, what are some of those traits that you bring into your life, and how?
I mean, I have a killer work ethic, so that's been massively beneficial for me with all of my jobs. And I enjoy working because of that. Like, I don't like to just get paid to not do much. I like to feel like I did something and checked off boxes for the day. So I think that, I mean, I see with other people I've worked with in the past that that's lacking a lot. So I'm very grateful that they gave me that, and then it comes naturally to me. I think that being kind and generous and thinking of other people, I mean, that's, again, some people just don't have that trait naturally. And I'm pretty grateful that it comes naturally, and it's definitely benefited me in my life. And I know people enjoy that trait about me. So yeah, I think it's a all around good thing.
Yeah, I get that from you. Just, I mean, y'all that are listening, Claire and I have been in communication a few times, but really this is the first time that we've met each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, I can get a good feeling for people, right? You can get a good feeling for people, like an intuitive gut feeling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I get that from you, and I've just gotten that from you, and a part of that I feel like is just seeing what you're up to. You're up to so many awesome things, and watching you do your paddleboarding, which I want to get into and talk a little bit about. But before we do that, like, I think that it's important to talk about, like, the power of empathy. That's something that you talked about in your form, and you're talking about now, is your ability to meet people where they are and understand them. And why do you think that there's so much power and empathy and just being with people?
Well, I think, for me, I always try to focus on and remind myself that you never know what somebody's going through behind the scenes. You could run into somebody that you've never met before, and maybe they're a little bit rude to you for some reason, but there could be a good reason for that. Maybe they just lost their mom or their grandpa. So I try to really focus on that and always have empathy, and just to constantly have that in the back of my mind. Like, you have no idea what people are going through. And I've always been one of those people who doesn't like small talk. I would rather just like dive in deep. Like, are you happy? Like, are you depressed? What goals do you have in life? Like, those kinds of like deep conversations I really enjoy. And if people give me the opportunity to have that with them, I'll definitely jump right into it. And especially for my side, I'll just share, pretty much everything. I don't really have a filter when it comes to that. But I feel like that's comforting for people, especially if I'm talking about like my struggles, because then it makes them, feel maybe less bad about if they're having issues, because everybody is struggling with something. And you don't know that unless they talk about it. So for me, I try and talk about it to make other people feel more comfortable talking about their issues. I actually made a post on social media sometime last year. I don't remember, but I started doing therapy pretty much beginning of last year, and it changed my life massively. It just did wonders for my life. I should have done it years ago. And I made a post about it, sharing kind of the site that I used and how much it benefited me. And, on social media, people usually only post the positive things in their life. It's just all happy, good. There's not a lot of negative. So it was kind of me just being like, hey, I know it looks like I'm out supping all the time, and I'm married and have an amazing husband and all this stuff just looks perfect, but like I still have issues. I still struggle with stuff. I'm working through stuff. And I know I got like amazing feedback. People just being like, thank you for sharing that. People who started therapy because of that post. So it was a really amazing thing. And I'm glad that I did it, even though I was nervous to do it, because therapy just has kind of like a stigma. It's like, ooh, you're going to therapy? Like, you must be really messed up, or I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. And what was it that made you decide that it was the time to go get some therapy?
I don't really know. I think it was just kind of like it hit me one day. And I was like, I feel like I was trying to do it all myself for so long, because for me, like a lot of my friends that I have, they have way more intense kind of traumatic things that happen to them in comparison to my trauma. So that was a reason why I didn't go for so long, because I was like, I got this, I can handle it. It's really not that bad in comparison. But it wasn't getting better. So I think at one point I was just like, I need to do it. I reached out to my couple friends that I knew were going to therapy, asked them what site they were using, and then got on, and it was affordable and accessible, which for some reason I just thought it wouldn't be. And it was probably the best decision I made in many years.
Yeah. And then, your willingness to share your story and to be vulnerable on a social media post, I think is, social media, like you said, like a lot of people, they just see the happy, or they see, like, they think that your life is all rainbows and butterflies, or whatever, however it's said, but when you have the willingness to share in a vulnerable way, it does open up space for people to be related to you, right? It's a very relatable thing to do. And why do you think it's so hard for people to share and be vulnerable like that? Because it's not that common. I mean, it's not that common. You're right. I mean, majority of people just put their face out there as like happy, or things are good and whatnot, but it's not all that common to find the vulnerability.
Yeah, I think just because, people have a lot of pride, and people want to be feeling good all the time and want people to think that everything's going well. And I just don't really think unless your parents taught that to you, like you're not really taught in school, how to talk about your feelings and how to communicate, and kind of like life skills like that we deal with our entire life. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just not really a common thing to talk about that kind of stuff. I think a lot of people that I know, they're just kind of like to, kind of bullshit and talk about like fluffy, frivolous stuff, and not kind of like face reality and take time to reflect, because it takes a lot of energy to to do it. Energy, time, you really have to like think about things and be present and aware of what's happening around you and why you're doing what you're doing and what triggers you. All of that stuff is not easy. Yeah, I don't know. I hope that it becomes more common and people open up and more people start going to therapy and it becomes more accessible and less stigmatized, because I think anybody can benefit from it.
Yeah, it definitely seems to be a time in the world where people are opening up to being more open and to sharing. I love like these podcasts. I love them, and they're really great for the guests and this community. You all that are listening to Claire and I right now, this is so awesome for you. And selfishly, it's really great for me too, because I get the opportunity to connect with someone like you, Claire, who is open to talk about your feelings and what really has happened in your life. And then I know like right away when somebody goes there, when somebody like you says, hey, I'm not afraid to go deep. I'm not afraid to talk about my emotions. Like I like that. That right there makes me feel so good and makes me feel so safe. Like I could share anything with you, you know? And I mean, in the world of business and marketing and all the different things like that, it's almost like, it's counterintuitive in a sense. It's almost like I feel like I've got to put my best face out there, and so I do. I try my very best to put my best face out there. But then, there's reality. Like we've got 2 kids. We've got another one on the way. It's like I don't always sleep great. I get sick all the time because my kids have got their hands in their mouth, and then they've got other kids that got their hands in their mouth. And like I feel like shit and I get grumpy and I'm an asshole sometimes,
Yeah.
I'm not just like Mr. Perfect, but, and those people that are right around me and you, like the people that I get to talk to and whatnot, they get that. Right. But I think it's really neat what you're talking about, because I think it is powerful and something I'm going to take into my marketing and whatnot, is sharing myself in a more open way so that people can kind of see behind the mask, and I do hope that more and more people start to do that too.
Yeah. It's so important. And the more that people do that, the more that other people are going to open up. And it's just kind of like a wave of openness.
The wave of openness. And I think that's a good segue into your sup. I mean, your sup has really taken off. This wave of sup. You got into whitewater sup, and I mean, not all that long ago, really. When did you start?
Technically I started in 2021, summer of 2021. I wasn't, do you want like the full story? Should I just throw down or?
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, just throw down. Okay. Do it. Yeah, and if you can, talk about some major spills that you've had, if you've had any.
Okay. Oh yeah. I've had I haven't had a huge amount, but I've had some.
Okay. Yeah, maybe even some like scary times on the board, because I know when I whitewater sup that like just getting out there in the current scares me. So I'm interested in all of it. When it started, how it happened, any stories you got, Claire, bring it on.
Okay.
So
let's just start from the beginning. So I got into whitewater because I worked at a photo shop in Lotus. It was called Whitewater Photos. It's not there anymore. I shot the photos of the rafters and sold them. So I shot at Troublemaker Rapid. Know that one?
Yeah.
And then on the South Fork, and then Chunder on the Middle Fork. I didn't really raft very much though, because I was working. I think I got on a couple times. And then some coworkers wanted to try and take me out to do some hardshell kayaking. And I was curious about it. I definitely was scared shitless, but I was like, okay, they know what they're doing. They were like class 4 plus kayakers, maybe even class 5. And it was me and my friend they were taking out. And we did the Coloma to Greenwood section, C to G. That's probably what you did with Dave.
Yep, C to G.
With Davide. I just call him Dave. And we were going out. they didn't really give me a huge amount of like pointers. I remember asking some questions, but at that time I wasn't really confident enough to be like, I'm scared. You need to like tell me everything. I was just trying to like play it cool, and it ended up being a terrible experience. So within like a couple minutes, the first rapid that we went through, we took the hard line. It's called Fluffy Bunny with a Fang. I sup it now and I love it, but
Fluffy bunny with a fang.
Fluffy Bunny with a Fang. It's right after Henningsen Park. And I flipped over, and somehow I knew and was able to find the loop of the skirt, because the skirt holds you into the hard shell, so you're kind of like stuck in it when you're upside down underwater. And I pulled it, was able to swim out, was like choking on water, couldn't breathe, freaking out. And then it's like a whole ordeal because you have to pull off the side of the river. All of your kayak's filled with water, so you have to empty it out. The whole crew's waiting for you. And once I calmed down, still had like at least 5-6 miles to go. And I was like, I am not swimming again. That was terrible. So I was just like white knuckled on the paddle, holding it so tight, just like paddling my heart out. Somehow I didn't swim or flip the rest of the way, thankfully, but it was really traumatizing. Like, it really put me off from white water in general, but also hard shell kayaking. I was like, that is not the sport for me.
Kind of scary to be like encapsulated in the kayak, right? Like to be stuck in there in some way.
Yeah, in my brain, I'm stuck, even though you're not technically, but it was, I mean, it was partly my fault for not communicating well enough, but also they were just very nonchalant, kind of machismo vibes, like, just get out there, you got it, it's class 2, it's nothing to them. So there was some issues there, so I didn't feel comfortable or well taken care of. And then it wasn't until I met my now husband in 2015. He's a whitewater kayaker and a raft guide. He's from New Zealand. He's also was a whitewater kayaking teacher. So we decided that it would be a good idea for him to teach me, which, spoiler alert, it was a terrible idea. And we even had 2 of our friends tell us, like, maybe that's not the greatest idea to have your partner teach you something, but we did it anyways. We're still together, so we survived, but
maybe stronger than ever because of that.
Yes.
Maybe.
I mean, it took a while, but yeah. And all that took place. So we spent 6 months in Revelstoke, British Columbia. Okay. And he was teaching me rock climbing, mountain biking, and kayaking all at the same time. So that was really intense. But I learned how to roll the hard shell in a pond, which still was terrifying for me. There was no moving water. He was right there with me, but I still just couldn't mentally be calm. It just didn't feel right. Didn't feel organic. So that didn't work out, and was pretty intense on our relationship. Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the relationship, was it like what did you learn in that whole experience of having him coach you and work with you on those 3 different things? You said whitewater kayaking, mountain biking, and climbing, which are like, I mean, those are intense activities that your husband is teaching you. And I know, like, when I'm cooking in the kitchen, it's kind of intense, So
right.
What did you learn about your relationship from that experience? Or what did you take from it?
Well, I think I really enjoyed mountain biking and rock climbing. So even though we still had some issues there with him teaching me, it was better because I actually enjoyed it. I wasn't like so scared. I thought I was going to die, which I did with kayaking. And then, we just learned that we can't really do it that well because emotions are involved. So I think if I had a different person teaching me who was an instructor, I still probably would have hated it, but there would have been less emotion involved. So I think it would have changed the energy of the situation, maybe made me a little less nervous, a little less willing to like lash out, because I had to like behave, because I don't know the person.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a good idea. I mean, we've met multiple other couples who have said the same thing. We experienced it with another couple while we were there. They would be like yelling at each other, and like if one girl's like on the climb and they would be speaking Spanish, they'd be like yelling at each other in Spanish, and we were like, "Yep, that was us yesterday." So yeah, we probably would be better at it now, but we just try and avoid it altogether.
Yeah, Katie, my wife, she's decided to start skiing again this year because our two boys are now skiing, and I needed the extra hands, and I was like, oh, I'll just teach you. And my dad, he's like, I don't know about that. You might want to think about it. And then for Christmas, she got a gift card for a private instruction.
Nice.
And she went and did it 2 hours. I was like, sweet. That was a nice move, man. Kept our relationship intact.
Yep.
Funny story, Claire. Okay, so you go through that, and I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I appreciate that we talked about that. Okay, so you go through that experience, and then what?
And then I was, a little bit depressed about it because I was like, well, it's not going to work out to kayak. And I really, I wanted to spend more time with him. I wanted to be a part of the whitewater community. I wanted to do it for myself because it was challenging, but it just did not feel right and didn't make me feel good. So I took a break from whitewater, and I think it was maybe a couple years after that, I started inflatable kayaking. So there's no skirt, there's nothing holding you in, you're just like free. So that was better for me, and I did it for a few summers, maybe 2, and I paddled the gorge, which is class 3 section on it, which was a big deal for me. But it didn't feel inspiring to me. It wasn't like getting me out every weekend, and I didn't feel like super a part of the whitewater community. It just didn't feel fully right. And it wasn't until June 11th of 2021, which was actually my husband's birthday, we went out on C2G, Coloma to Greenwood, and I was in my inflatable, he was in his hard shell, and one of our friends was on a Badfish MCIT stand-up paddleboard, and I was just mind blown. I was like, you're seriously going to take that down the river into the rapids, even though it was only class 2, like it's still intense to be standing on a board going through that. So
heck yeah,
I was mind blown. I ended up hopping on near the end, going through this tiny little rapid, tiny little ripples, and like ate shit, but was super stoked because it was so challenging and like the coolest feeling standing on moving water. It's just amazing. So after that, I was hooked. And when was it? June 27th. So not that far after, I purchased a body glove from Costco because I ended up that night after seeing him on the SUP, I researched the brand and it was just kind of out of my price range. It was way too much money and I, didn't know if I was really going to commit to it or not yet. So I got the body glove, started going out, went on the Snake River in Idaho in October and took it through a class 3 rapid. It was big water, so just like huge waves and like really friendly. So if you fall, there's no rocks or anything. And had an amazing time. Definitely went down some of the rapids backwards, not meaning to. But I just had so much fun. But then realized like, okay, I need like an actual whitewater specific board. So I reached out to this gal, Sarah, who is actually the person that I bought my kayak from. And she started getting into stand-up paddleboarding. I saw her on the river one day and reached out to her and said, hey, will you take me out on C2G, teach me some skills? I'll buy you dinner. And then she connected me with Davide, with Dave, and his Facebook group page where he gathers people to get on the river. And I started going out with them. And, you know, my skill level, once I met him, just like took off, because he and in the whole group was, I feel like, the vibe that I was looking for on the river. There's no, what's the word? There was just no like pride and kind of like trying to be cool. And it was just all like having fun, smiling, safety. Like Dave is all about safety, even when it might not, you know, be like a little over the top. Like, I'm stoked on it. I want to talk about things before we get on the river. I want to feel safe and communicate. And he was all about that. So it made me feel so comfortable, and would teach me anytime I would ask a question, or he would be like, can I give you a pointer? I would be like, yes, please give it to me. And then I just would watch him and was comfortable with the crew, and it just took off from there. And then, I don't know if you remember, but I bought my first hollow board from you, from Spotted Dog.
Spotted Dog, I love it.
Yep.
That's so awesome. So yes, I remember.
I wrote that date down. That was October. So that was after my Snake River trip. I got back and was like, okay, I need a board that will help me not go down the rapids backwards. And yeah, from there it just took off, and I got super hooked on surfing. Surfing on the river. I bought a dry suit, which was huge for me because I'm a total weenie. So that meant I could get on the river in winter, which showed how addicted I was, because I was like, I don't care how cold it is. I'm going to get a dry suit and I'm going to get out there and continue paddling.
That's so rad. I love that. And that's up in that area. One of the greatest things, right? With the water releases it's one of the only areas in North America where you can actually paddleboard the river all year long. I mean, and with the weather. So, I mean, dry suit, heck yeah. Real quick, I want to just take a step back and talk about the safety of paddleboarding, whitewater paddleboarding, because I remember when I did my session with Davide. Hey everybody, Davide Sartoni, he's the guy. If you want to get out in whitewater sup, he's the guy, and Claire Dougherty is the woman. You want to mesh up with these two people and learn how to do it, because my experience when I went up there was phenomenal, and for number one reason, because the very first thing we talked about was safety. I was nervous. Like, I don't want to drown. I don't want to leave my kids behind, you know?
Yep.
So I learned a lot about safety. Can you talk about your experience in safety on whitewater sup and give us some tips and maybe share some pointers with the people that might be interested in getting involved with it?
Yeah. So let's see. I mean, I think, like I already touched on, having a group that you trust with your life is massive for many things, but for making you feel comfortable and confident on the river. I mean, that was massive for me. I was still scared every day I went on the river, and still do get nervous, but being with a crew that you feel comfortable with, that is massive. I think just knowing your skill level and knowing your limits, and just like, for me, I'm very cautious, and that's what worked for me with being so nervous. I didn't ever push it too hard to where I would get injured. I kind of was always just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't do the gorge until a year after paddling. So it wasn't until the following summer, I think, that I did the gorge, which is the class 3 section. And Dave would always be like, you're definitely ready, but I didn't want to have a bad experience that put me off from supping. So I think, you know, that helps to just kind of stay where your level is and not try and go too gung-ho and get too crazy with it.
That's huge. That's so true. I mean, that's in yoga or in anything, you know, it's like kind of, I guess what's coming up for me is like, be where you're at and you'll have your biggest breakthroughs, right? Like, don't, you know, even if you're paddling with a group of people that are more advanced than you or, and whatnot, like take a step back and look at them, learn from them, but then remember where you are and just move from where you're at, you know, in the yoga mat, in the yoga world, what happens is brand new people come in and they have a mat next to somebody who's been doing yoga for the last 10 years that they've been going for five times a week. And then they try to do everything that person is doing. And then ultimately they get either frustrated or hurt and then they never come back. Right. So
Right.
there's a lot of power and consistency. That's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Just play it safe, if anything. That way you can go paddling, the next day or the next week. And then the leash stuff is huge. There's been a lot of kind of controversy with the whole leash thing. There's a lot of different opinions. Some people, I think especially in Europe, don't even use leashes in whitewater. I personally love my leash, and it makes me feel comfortable on the river, knowing that if I fall off, I can just pull it and the board is right there and I can hop back on and quickly avoid any danger that's downstream. But I also have a quick release, which is the most important thing if you're going to be paddling on white water with a leash, is to have a quick release system. So there's a belt that people get that's separate from their life jacket that has like a little ball you can pull, and you attach the leash on the back so that it's up where you can reach it with either hand. And the one I have, it's called a rescue life jacket. So it has like it's not a rope, but it has a piece of kind of webbing that goes all the way around and has a ring on the back and then the little ball in the front. So I attach it to the back, and it's even higher for me to be able to pull. And I think the more positive or benefit to having it on your life jacket is that it doesn't ever move, whereas the belt can move. So the ball could be here, but if you have a bad swim and it gets crazy, it could be like moved, somewhere where you're not used to. But my ball is always in the same place, so I can always pull it, and then I'm released from the sup. So
that's cool. I like that tip, because then you're not like underwater having a hard time breathing and finding your bearings and then trying to find the ball on your hip, right? It's like you just know it's like right there. I mean, that would make me feel safe.
Yeah. And then practicing the situation of it happening, and just knowing your gear and not just kind of doing what somebody else says. Just like do your own research and what works for you. I think that is the most important.
I love those tips. That's so good. You're awesome. I'm curious what it's like to be honored as a Hall of Gear team paddler, and what does that mean? How did they reach out to you, and how did the whole experience go down, and what are you up to with Holla?
So I think they just saw, how much I was sharing the stoke of the brand, the Holla brand, sharing the stoke of whitewater supping on social media. I think they just saw that I was getting after it and doing class 3 and cleaning class 3, surfing my heart out. I'm obsessed with surfing. It's my number one. And, having a good community of suppers that I share all of that with. And I would always tag them on social media and give them huge shout outs. And I think they just saw that, and I applied as well when they opened up the applications, and I got accepted. So it basically just means I'm helping them out and they're helping me out. So I get like certain benefits, and the more that I share photos wise with them, the more that I tag them, the more benefits that I get, which is amazing because I've been doing that for a couple years anyways, because I think I think there's other amazing brands out there, but I think Holla is number one. And I'm not like trying to get, I'm not saying this because I'm a team paddler, but like from the get-go, it was between Badfish and Holla. I couldn't decide, but Holla has the Stomp Box technology, which is the main middle fin. When it hits a rock, it's on a spring and it pops into the board. So to me, that was a no-brainer for whitewater because there's rocks everywhere. And if you hit a rock, you're going to go flying off your board, maybe into another rock. So that just was like, yep, that's the one for me. And their durability, their customer service was insane. And they're just a great kind of small family business. And I'm just stoked to be a part of the family.
That's cool. And have you had a chance to go to Steamboat Springs and check out their store there?
I have not. I would love to, though.
I would love to, too. Geez, I haven't, but that would be super fun. I like Steamboat Springs. It's beautiful. I went there when I was a kid, though. So, cool. Well, thanks for sharing the stoke with Holla gear. It's Spotted Dog and Sup. That's all we rep. We use it on all of our yoga adventures. I have 3 boards in my garage that I use all the time. I love them. And they're all for different things, flat water or carrying 2 kids, a dog, and trying to fish at the same time, like, and then my river sup board, which hasn't really been used much because I'm trying to have as many conversations with whitewater suppers as possible so that I can prepare myself because I still have a little bit of anxiety around it. Although I have done it, haven't used that board. So, how has being on the river and surfing and going through these amazing rapids and being around this amazing community helped you in your healing and helped you with your health and your mindset and your mental well-being?
So, I mean, I would say supping combined with therapy has completely changed my life. I consider supping as my free therapy. It has completely boosted my confidence. It's connected me with the river, which I wanted for so long. It's connected me with the river community. An amazing group of humans. So, connection is so important. And I felt I didn't have that for so long. So having that has boosted my confidence. And I'm just happier. Like I can feel the happiness. It's just like some days it's just oozing when I'm on the river. Like it's too much smiling. But yeah, it's just changed my life fitness wise too. Like it's a full body workout. So like I'm in pretty good shape. It just feels good after you get off the river. You just know that you've worked your ass off. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. I would highly suggest it to anybody.
There you have it, people. Whitewater Supping with Claire Dougherty, Davide Sartoni, the Holla Gear crew. They're all good people. And you're there in Northern California, have such an amazing place, so many amazing places to do it. And not just in Northern California. I mean, coming up here into Idaho and all the way up into Canada and everywhere. There's so many wonderful bodies of water that you can jump on. Someday it'd be really fun to do the Snake. I bet that trip was cool. Who did you do that one with?
So with the rafting company I work for, we have a staff trip at the end of each season. So like last year we did the Rogue, the one before that we did the Maine Salmon, and then the Snake was before that one. So it's a great supping river. The water was warm. It was big water, which I'm not used to. So it was luscious.
Yeah, luscious is your word for it because it was warm, which you love.
Yes.
And big water. Warm and big water. Should that be the title of this podcast? It's either that or free therapy because I like that too.
Warm, big water, free therapy.
Warm, big water, free therapy.
That might be
Nick Clark with special guest Claire Dougherty. Oh, nailed it. Oh my gosh. So you're right. Wait, just a few fun facts before we close out, okay, Claire? Because I could talk with you for like a couple more hours, but I know you don't have that time, and I want to respect your time. But you did say you play hard by prioritizing getting out in nature and creating memories and experiences. That's pretty amazing. Take that with you, people. Prioritizing getting out in nature and creating memories and experiences. Claire, what is it about nature and creating memories and experiences? What is it about that fills your soul?
I don't even know. I mean, nature itself is just mind blowing. The area that I live in is insanely beautiful. The wildflowers right now are crazy. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I've always had a strong connection with nature, and I've always just wanted to be outside as much as possible in the sun and just squeezing every little drop out of the day. That's just kind of who I am. Sometimes it's like too much, and I'm like, well, you need to chill, like just go inside for a little bit. You don't have to go so crazy. But yeah, I just try to get after it and prioritize being outside because it makes me feel at my best.
Yeah, I agree with you there, 100. And if people aren't getting outside enough, it can really be harmful to their health and mental well-being, so get outside, people.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and then you write with your left hand, but you do a lot of other things with your right hand. So you're like, what do you call that? Is that semi-ambidextrous?
Yeah, I
Like,
always thought I was ambidextrous. I think my husband shot me down and was like, no, technically you're not. But I think I'm just weird, my body just decides what it wants, what side, with random stuff that doesn't really make sense. So,
okay. Do you eat with your left hand, like your fork?
I don't even know what hand I eat with. I just one of those things I don't even pay attention to. I think I eat with my right hand. Maybe I eat with both. I need to pay attention to that. I don't know.
It's funny is I like went through this stage in time, and maybe I'll try it again, but where I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and do everything with my left hand, and
Yeah.
I say I went through the stage in life, like, let's be real, it like lasted probably like 30 minutes because I was like, fuck, I just really want that mac and cheese, or I really want that hot dog, and I can't get it.
It's supposed to be really good for your brain, right? To use the opposite side.
Yeah,
But yeah,
it
when you gotta
is.
eat, you gotta eat. So
That's right. I mean, it gets bad when you just throw the forks and everything away and start eating like a dog. My wife doesn't like that so much. Okay. Your husband, what's his name? Let's throw him props. You did get into conversation about him. What's his name?
his name's Anthony. Everybody calls him Ants. And
Yeah.
he's also, I need to give him a big shout out because he's the one that taught me how to read water. So I came into whitewater supping with that knowledge. A lot of people didn't. A lot of people go into it, at least that I know, with like no whitewater experience. So he taught me that, and that was very beneficial, even if it was like a rough teaching session. We made it through, and I learned a lot.
Right on. Props to you, Ants, and let us. I really can't wait till we get a chance to meet each other, man. Right out there to you. All right, Claire, is there anything that's been left unsaid or anything you would like to share with the Play Hard Love Big community before we sign off today?
I did just sup the Grand Canyon, so that was really cool. I just got back week and a half ago, maybe. And it was insane. I didn't sup the whole thing. I didn't sup lava because I wasn't trying to swim lava. To me, it was like, I want to swim lava? Because that's what's going to happen. I'm not going to sup it. I'm going to swim it. So
I'm assuming, because I don't know, but lava is like a massive rapid.
Yeah, lava's
I'm guessing.
the biggest one. It's a class 9. The scale on the Grand Canyon's 1 to 10. So instead of 1 to 5, like on the South Fork, it's 1 to 10. So it's the biggest. It's not super technical, but it's, it would be a gnarly swim. So I didn't do that, but I did some pretty big 5s. I did one big 8. and it's just huge water, like bigger than anything I've ever experienced. And just being out there with the walls of the Grand Canyon for 21 days, it was insane. And like, you can't even really put it into words. And it also took me quite a while to like get used to normal life again, because you're just, you're not around people for 21 days. And it was a weird time last week coming back. I just didn't know what was what anymore, but I'm back to normal.
Now you're on the tech doing a podcast.
Yep.
Where I'm like, whoa, dang, Back to the Future or whatever that is. That's true though. And so cool that you did that Grand Canyon trip. I know first and foremost, it takes a while to get permits for that unless you go with commercial groups that have permits, from like years out. But then how long is that trip? Did you already say that? How long is that trip?
21 days.
21 days in the canyon, and with how many people?
16 people, 5 rafts. We cooked all our own meals. We all pooped in an ammo can called the Groover. The Groover. And yeah, it's full on. You're out there in the elements. It snowed on us. At the end, it was super hot. It was crazy windy. And it's constant work every day, taking your gear off the boat, putting it back on, setting up your tent or your cots. It's not your typical vacation. It's like you're working every day and not getting paid. So, but in the most beautiful place in the world.
Exactly. And did Ants go with you?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He rode our boat with our gear.
That's so cool. What a neat experience. I mean, that is an experience you'll hold forever.
Yep. I'm very grateful.
Wow. That's cool. Well, thank you, Claire, so much for being a part of our podcast. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
Heck yeah. I enjoyed every moment of it. And I'm stoked on the sport of paddleboarding. So much more now that I had the opportunity to talk with you, and Hala got it right by naming you a team paddler. And I just appreciate the fact that you got on here and we shared so vulnerably what it is that you've done in your life to get yourself healthy and what it is you're doing in your life to stay healthy. And we really appreciate the fact that you showed up and did that and shared so ruthlessly and playfully in the way that you came on the show. So thank you very much.
Of course. Yeah. We got to get you out on the river.
Heck yeah. Okay. This summer when I'm in town, I'll hit you up.
Yes, please. And just know that I was so scared and still am scared. So I'll be right there with you. Okay, cool. That does make me feel better. Seriously. Hey, y'all. Thanks for listening to Play Hard and Love Big Radio, the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup. We are dedicated to bringing you the most amazing people and the most amazing stories so that you can connect to your center and go out and live your most purposeful and passionate life. Today, we had Claire Dougherty on with us, and she did exactly that. So thank you so much, Claire, and everybody have a great rest of your day. Peace out. Later, alligator. After a while, crocodile. That was great, Claire. Thank you. Thank you.